he is. Welcome, Robert.
Hi, how's it going?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Doing very well.
Fantastic. Let me give our audience a little bit of an introduction. So, Robert's won the Super Bowl 48 with the Seattle Seahawks, and has been playing professional football since 2012 with the Seahawks, the Browns, the Cowboys, and the Colts, and now the Beast in the Fan Control Football League, right?
Well, I'm not with the Beast anymore, but I was there for a short time.
All right.
This year. Yeah.
So great acquaintances and great experiences. He's also got his experience store set up on the SPRTER app where anyone can book experiences with him, gaming, virtual live streaming on Twitch, or a virtual game of horse. How's your basketball?
My basketball game is actually pretty good.
All right, I may have you take up on that virtual game of horse then. So lots of experiences. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you.
Let's get straight into how did you start football, and when did you realize that you had a special skill?
So I was in about the second grade, and I grew up in Fremont, California. So down the street from my house, I lived in a corner house. Down the street, literally on the other corner, across the street, there was a park there, Irvington Park. And in the backyard of my house, basically the backyard, I mean, you go in the backyard, you hop over the fence, and basically you were at Irvington High School, right? So Irvington High School was right there. That's the high school I went to. But Irvington Park was down the street. Every weekend, particularly Saturdays, there was just always a bunch of people at the park. And as a young 9-year-old in second grade, I'm not thinking too much of it. I'm just thinking like, there's a bunch of people at the park. Maybe there's birthday parties going on all the time, barbecues. I mean, that's normal for a park, right? But I started to notice, whistles and cheering and cheerleaders and all of these things going on. Every year before the first game of the season, they used to do this, I forget what it was called, but it was like a band and a bunch of cheerleaders, and they'd walk like a half a mile from one place to Irvington Park. It's called a jamboree, actually.
Okay.
And so I remember seeing that. And so I was at school one day. I grew up with a good friend of mine. His name is Justin Ramos. And so I was at school one day. He lived right around the corner from me. And I asked him, I said, man, what's going on at Irvington Park every weekend? And he says, well, it's the Fremont Football League. I said, what? I want to play,
Okay.
I mean, instantly my interest sparked. I was like, wow, I want to play too. Obviously, it was already kind of in the middle of the season, in the fall there, so I couldn't play that year. But him and his parents, they got all the paperwork and everything together for me to be able to play the next year when we moved on to fifth grade. So that's really how I got started. That was my first year playing football. I was 10 years old, a fifth grader. I did this whole tryout thing that they had, and they did this whole draft thing that they used to do back in the day. So it was a great time. And it wasn't until, I played all the three major sports growing up as a kid. I started in baseball. I loved baseball. I grew up an Oakland A's fan. Then I transitioned over to basketball, and I was doing both of those for a little while. I was a Laker fan for a long time, started in Chicago, and then I started playing football. And so that was year after year. Year round, I was in sports. And so I always would dabble, into like, what do I want to do? I knew I wanted to be a professional athlete, but it was like, which one? Because I loved all three, right? And so I was a sophomore in high school when, I don't know, I just knew football was the direction for me. And so, I'll tell you a quick story. We were playing this team, American high school, and I was a sophomore. I was on the JV team, and they were one of the worst teams in the league, in the division, right, at that time.
Okay.
And we were one of the best, but we didn't really have a quarterback at the time. The quarterback that we had went to varsity early, kind of left us astray a little bit. So anyway, long story short, we play this game against American. They're the second worst team in the league, next to Mission, who was the worst. We go out, we lose that game. So basically like an upset,
Okay.
like a
Big
college
upset.
football upset. Yeah, right. So I just remember being so upset in the locker room, and we had all the aspirations of the world on playing basketball that year, together. I mean, my friends and I, we grew up hooping and everything like that. But for whatever reason, I decided in my mind in that moment in the locker room after that game that nothing else mattered but getting together in the off season, getting better as a football team, not even thinking about basketball anymore, so that a loss like this never happens again. And so that was kind of the mental, kind of the decision-making like point for me that kind of set the tone for a football career.
Wow. So one defeat, and that was the catalyst in just that amazing career. And as one of our listeners just said, the biggest biceps in NFL. So
yeah, I do a little work in the weight room, nothing major.
no big deal. That's awesome. And then you went to Utah State, and then joined the Seahawks after a short stint. And then, I mean, obviously you've had amazing success with the Seahawks, right? Winning that Super Bowl. And we just had a question from the audience, as in, well, how did they, when you first joined the Seahawks, how did they treat you? How did they welcome you in the locker room? What's your memory there? And how did you, become part of that team?
Yeah, well, I had no idea that Seattle was even interested in me. Going through the whole draft process, going to the combine and everything like that, participating in all the meetings, meeting different teams. I thought I was going to be a Raven. I thought I was going to go to Baltimore. I felt like that meeting with the coaching staff and some of the members of the organization went so well that I thought it was a lock. I was going to go to Baltimore in the second round. I didn't even visit with Seattle during the combine or anything like that. So I had no idea. But they drafted me. They drafted me in the fourth round, and they were super excited to get me. They didn't think I'd still be available. I didn't think I'd still be available either. Right? But everything happens for a reason. And they welcomed me with open arms. They had all the belief in the world in me from the beginning. They didn't really treat me like a rookie.
Okay.
And part of that was, in the beginning, part of that was what's my personality and how I approach the game. And, I had great coaches at the college level that prepared me for the professional level and what to expect and how things are, etc. And so all the rookie stuff that normal rookies would do, I didn't really have to do. They treated me like a veteran. I had the maturity of one at such a young age. And it resonated around the locker room with other leaders, of course, that we had on our team. And we were able to have a lot of success.
That's amazing that they, take you in and treat you as part of the team right away. We also have just a quick question on when you hear of the 12th man, and like when you hear that, what does that mean to you in terms of what the fans in Seattle? What does that make? How are they special?
Yeah, it means the world, and I'll tell you why. I was fortunate enough to play for other teams and other organizations. And this is not, listen, every team that I played for, the time in 2015 when I was with the Browns, obviously everyone in the world who's a football fan knows that the Browns were having a tough time for a long time. And it was, it was top to bottom. It was, their own, it was leadership at the ownership, spots, and management in between, and the players in the locker room as well. I mean, it was just discombobulated. So, but the fans still, even in Cleveland, showed up. I mean, to every game. They might have had bags on their heads, but they were there, and obviously Dallas is, I mean, everybody, I mean, if you're in Dallas, I mean, Cowboys fans are just, they love their Cowboys no matter what. I mean, every year they love the Cowboys so much, they think they're going to win the Super Bowl every year. Maybe that's how you should think. Other people feel like you should be more realistic about your team and the outlook of what their roster and everything is looking like, schedule, etc. But whatever. And obviously Colts fans that paid Manning for a long time, a little bit spoiled out there, but they were fantastic. But Seattle set the standard for me and the 12s, because it's not just about how they were on game days. I mean, everybody knows, whether you're the away team, the home team, if you've never played in Seattle before, you've heard the electricity that comes around being in that stadium. And I mean, they're on their feet, they're cheering loud from kickoff all the way to even in the preseason,
Okay.
That's a standard that is, I mean, you're not gonna find that really anywhere else in the league. But it's more than that with the 12s. It's being in the city, going around town, shaking hands, taking pictures, being in the community, and how they treat you from that standpoint is I've never seen it. I've never seen it in any other community. Now, granted, I wasn't with Dallas long enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
I know the fans love their Cowboys up there, but just the love that the 12 show their players, whether current or former, all the time, whether you're on the field, off the field, maybe if you got in trouble, it doesn't even matter. They always treat you like with the utmost respect, and that's why they're the best fans in the league to me.
That's awesome to hear, and I've heard a lot about the 12s, but it's from that perspective, from the player's perspective, to hear that as well. That's awesome to see. Now, we have a segment that we call Pro Advice. And where we basically, at Pro Advice, we'll ask you, the pro, and we basically had some questions submitted already before. So one of the questions one of our audience wanted to know is, my coach told me that I need to work on being more coachable. What advice do you have for me to be more coachable? Obviously, you said you were mature when you joined, but I'm sure there were some moments where, like, you had a long career, so I'm sure you can provide some insights here on how to be more coachable.
Yeah, being coachable is, to me, it's just a mindset. It's a mindset of how good do I want to be as a player? How good do I want to be as a teammate as well? And so, think about it. You can know everything that there is to know about the game, but there's still space to learn, and that's a mindset. You can be the smartest guy in the room. You can be Einstein. But if you approach it, if you step into a room knowing that you're the smartest guy, then you're putting yourself really behind the 8 ball. But if you step into a room with the openness to say, hey, I'm going to get better today, I'm going to learn something out of this today, now you put yourself to a position to grow and be even better than you already are. And so really being coachable is a mindset. If you've ever been around somebody who just thinks that they know it all, eventually, you know, they tend to fail at some point. But I mean, you know, even for me, there's been plenty of years throughout my sports life, not even just football, where I knew I was the best, period. But at the same time, I wanted to be better still. At the same time, I was of the mindset like, man, there's somebody out there somewhere in the world working just as hard, if not harder than me. And that's just the mindset. So it's like, man, I gotta be able to be coachable. There's plenty of times, and all athletes can relate to this. There's plenty of times where coach will approach you, and he or she may say something that makes completely no sense at all. You know, or you might get into a back and forth where, you know, coaches aren't always right. You know what I mean? But depending on how you approach it mentally, they are always right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me, even when a coach approaches you, even when you know you're right, let the coach coach. That's his job. His job is a coach, right? So be coachable. There's always something that you can learn as long as you approach it with that sort of mindset.
That's really good advice, as in the mindset and the attitude that plays a big role. That's awesome. Now, what advice would you give a new rookie in the NFL? Like 2 or 3 quick hitters that are must things to keep in mind when entering the league.
Yeah, number one, you talked about it. You know, be coachable. We just talked about it.
Yeah,
be coachable, but be coachable not just on the field, but off the field as well. Be coachable to the coaches, teammates. As a rookie, when you become a pro, there's a lot of different jobs and positions now.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's so much that you can learn about the actual business of the NFL. And so become a sponge, man. Soak up as much as you can. Secondly, you know, it's all about priorities. A lot of times when you go from being a college senior and you're the man or the woman, and you go to being a rookie. I mean, you're a rookie now. I mean, these guys, you come into the league as a rookie. Some of these guys, they're making, you know, a lot of money. Not everybody is, but they have 2, you know, 3 children. That they're you know, there's wives and husbands and things like that at home. So it's a different culture and mindset that you have to have, you know, when going to the next level. And so, you know, what's the priority for you, not only in season, but off season? It'll be the first off season after your rookie year that you just have. I remember after my rookie year, I went on vacation. I went to the Bahamas just because. I went because I thought that's what you were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
The season's over, so I guess you're supposed to go on vacation. I'm not really sure how this works, so let's go to the Bahamas. You know what I mean? So It's just organizing your life. And then lastly, even though you're a rookie, it is really important, especially me being where I'm at now in my career. It is really important to, you know, figure out what it is, what your other passions are. And the earlier you start, the better. What is it outside of the sport that you love? And you can start to prepare. See, a lot of us, when we're young in our career, we don't think we have time for anything else but the game, when in fact that's not true. And we can utilize our time after training. You can't train 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, you can't train all day. After training and other things that are football specific, now what are you engaging in and learning about and putting yourself in position to be able to succeed at once you're done playing football, you know? So Those would be my top three things.
Those are awesome takeaways. Now, you've just mentioned those those projects outside your passions, the beyond the field, and that's a great segment and transition to, well, what are your projects? What are your passions outside, and what are you working on? What you got going? I know you're really in the community as well. So, like, what is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very versatile personality. I love to involve myself in different things. I do have a foundation that I've had since 2014. We support people with cerebral palsy and MS. I had two sisters who were afflicted with those diseases. They both passed on, but we also, have a huge, impact on youth sports in the community, and specifically athletes who are either have a disability or paraplegic. And so we're really starting to, prioritize ourselves in that space as well. So it's really fun, but I love to entertain. I do radio, TV. I've got some stuff going on with CBS. I do TV for them. ESPN just hired me to be on radio every Thursdays. Once the season starts, I'll be doing some coverage during training camp and stuff like that. I love to do entrepreneur type stuff and invest in different businesses if it makes sense. I have my own real estate business that has really picked up over the last few months, and it's just like, man, you go from sports, talk radio, to TV, to foundation work, to real estate, and I'll continue to diversify myself and my profile as much as I can. It's just part of my personality, and it's what I love to do. So I've been blessed and fortunate enough, not to say that I didn't go through tough times trying to figure out what it is I truly love to do outside of the game of football, because I love ball. I mean, I've been playing some sort of ball since I was 8, but it happens for all of us. And so, but yeah, versatility for me, the most important thing, and I love what I'm doing. I love where we're going as well.
That's amazing. And I mean, you just talked about all of those different type of experiences. How do you upscale? I mean, does that just randomly, you don't just randomly wake up and be like, oh, now I'm a great real estate investor. Like, how do you get connected with that? And how do you educate yourself on those type of opportunities and those type of fields?
Yeah, it takes learning, it takes networking, and connecting with other people. I started my real estate business, and I was able to partner with someone, and the partnership came from a failed deal by me that I was doing on my own.
Okay.
The deal, it was ready to go. It was, the paperwork was signed. Boom, boom, boom. It was in the state of Washington. And I won't get too specifics, but basically I dropped the ball. And so I get on the phone with a potential, buyer who's been doing this for 20 years or whatever.
Okay.
It's only been like a couple months for me,
Yeah.
And so he starts to, give me all this advice, and then I start to take a bunch of notes, stuff like that. And then before you know it, we're partners in this thing. And we're both being successful, and so without his tutelage, I wouldn't know what I know and be where I'm at now, and still continuing to learn. I mean, there's other friends that I have who are involved in that space, and other spaces as well, that I like to dabble in. And so, I mean, the radio gig happened for me. I was in the second year of my career in Seattle, I get a call from somebody at Cube 93. Have you ever been on radio before? No. Would you like to? Sure. And you know, before you know it, I have a broadcasting, you know, career in my background, you know what I'm saying? And so, and then CBS calls me, and then, you know, ESPN calls me and says, hey, you want to do radio for us? Do you want to do TV for us? When I was in Indy, I was a co-host for a show on Wish 8 TV, you know, and so that one experience has opened up other doors and opportunities for others. So it comes down to, and that's another thing that I would tell a rookie going into any professional sport: relationships are everything.
Okay.
They're literally everything. When I first got into the league, I didn't know that you could have a relationship with like the general manager or somebody who's, you know, kind of working upstairs, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, those guys, they're in those positions similarly to how, you know, you became a professional. And we're dealing with people at the end of the day. You know, nobody is like over anyone. No one is above anyone, and there's not like a position that you can't be knowledgeable about for yourself. And so it's all about connecting, networking, and developing relationships at the end of the day.
And that attitude that you just talked about, that's probably what helps you get into those business, get those opportunities. I mean, otherwise, if you didn't stay listening to the guy in real estate and, you know, him giving you advice, you're like, well, if you had that attitude, like, I know anyway, or didn't have that outgoing personality, then you wouldn't have that opportunity. So that comes back to your earlier point in attitude and be coachability, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's amazing. We have one more segment before I don't want to keep all of your time, but the last segment we have is break the rules. And in break the rules, I'll ask you to change one rule of the NFL, and that would make the game better.
I don't know if this is going to make the game better, but they just actually had a rule change this year about, and people can, I mean, look, it's cool. Like, it's fun. I get it. I don't know. Maybe I have an old soul. I'm innovative. Anybody who's listening to this, okay, I am innovative. It's all good. But personally, the number change is kind of, it just, I don't want to call it Bush League because that might be, but I'm not really for it. Okay. Like I love wearing the number 6 in high school and college. I was raw. It looked raw. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it was nice. It was a nice looking number on me, but I can't envision myself lining up in the backfield for the Seahawks in number 6. I don't know. Maybe because I've already done it. I just think that I hate to use the word traditionally because it's like it's 2000. I mean, you know, it's 2021. It's a whole new world. You know, tradition is just like non-existent in a lot of things now. But I don't like the number change, man. I don't want to look out at and see a corner wearing number 7. Like my boy did in college, Chris Randall. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just that I just like that there are some similarities to college and the NFL, but personally, I like that there's a difference. There's just a couple different rules. You know, you can't wear number 1 and play D tackle. It's just, you know, and that's cool. D tackles are going to be in the 90s. Sometimes in the 50s,
yeah,
you know, or even the 60s, you know. So, and that's cool, you know. But yeah, I'm not with the number change right now, personally.
Fair enough.
So I change it back.
Okay. We did have one question from the audience, and when you grew up, who was your hero? Who did you look up to? And when you started playing, and you know, who'd you really aspire to, like, oh my God, I want to be like that person, or and why?
Well, it's hard to nail it down to one athlete. If I had to pick one, it would be Jordan. I mean,
Okay.
because I love basketball. Basketball really, I mean, like if I was 3 or 4 inches taller, that's probably the route I would have took instead of football. But like I said, football, it just took over. The passion just took over. But it was, you know, for me, like baseball, when I played, my favorite player was Ricky Henderson. I love stealing bases. It had an impact on me and how I played the game of baseball. I wanted to bat first. I wanted to get on base. I wanted to steal second and possibly third if I could. You know, that was just kind of like my game. And in basketball, I modeled my game after Michael Jordan, and even Kobe. You know, when he came, it was those two guys that kind of started the passion for me in the game of basketball. I kick my foot out every time I shoot. I love to shoot turnaround jumpers over my left shoulder because those were the shots that those guys took. I literally go out the park by myself for hours, and that's all I would do. I used to go to the park as a kid, and I'd pretend that I was all 5 players on the Bulls in the finals.
Okay.
And I was all 5 players for the Jazz. And I'd be running full court, up and down the court, playing the game, you know. And
That's where the Turbin comes from. That's where the Turbin comes from.
Right. And so, you know, and obviously, like, I'd make sure the Bulls win, but, you know, that's what I would do. I mean, it was just passion. And then I grew up a 49ers fan, but my favorite running back, the person that inspired me to play running back was Barry Sanders.
Okay.
I love Barry, how he ran, juking everybody. And I like how he wasn't, you know, like celebratory. He'd hand the ball to the referee, go back. But that's just that's just one side of my personality. The other side of my personality, because my second favorite football player of all time is Deion Sanders, who's a super flashy.
Oh, now can you
know
dance?
Yeah, you know, like yeah. So a part of me wanted to be like him too, you know. So, but yeah, a lot of different idols with different personalities, but they all had an impact on me wanting to be a professional athlete and wanting to be the best that I could be.
That's a really elaborate and really detailed answer. I really enjoyed that, and all of those different. It's nice to, like, I'll pick the best of all of them, and I mean, you gotta love Deion for his flashiness, and then, you know, the down base, back to business. Here's the ball. Next, let's get one more. So right. That's a great mix of personalities and heroes to aspire to. I don't want to take all of your time up, and we're hitting the 30 minute, or actually over the 30-minute mark. So I really enjoyed this conversation. I want to thank you so much for your time. For all of our listeners there who want to check out what Robert has on, what experiences he has on the SPRTER app, check it out there, and check out his website, robertjturbin.com, and the Turbo Talk podcast, and follow him on Twitch, the SPRTER app, all of the Instas and Twitters, and you got an awesome presence and great content, so it's engaging and inspiring. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, Turbo Talk will be relaunching live on Twitch in August.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to that. A lot of different plannings and things like that going on. But you guys, you know, I'll put the information out. I've been quiet for a while because there's been a lot of preparation going on my end. You know, once the fall gets here, the football season starts to get rolling, there's going to be a lot of action. So guys, stay tuned and be prepared.
I'm excited. I will stay tuned, and thank you so much for joining us on the SPRTER podcast. We'll have all of that out on YouTube down the road, and make sure to get all of that knowledge back out in smaller little pieces to our audience. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, Turbo.
All right, man. You too.
Take it easy.
Later.
Bye.